Hello. Today I'm going to read the introduction from my Sacred Hellos Messages from Heaven book and chapter 1. I'll show you the illustration here. Introduction. If you are reading this book, I'm going to assume that you have experienced the death of someone you care about. You are not alone. During the deep pain and heartache after a loss, it can be hard to open to signs from Spirit. My hope is to broaden your awareness and assist you in your walk through grief. I believe we all inherently have the ability to connect with loved ones who have passed over. This book will touch on spirit numbers, signs from Spirit, and ways to communicate with your angels and loved ones. When I lost my mom, I wanted to understand my feelings and look for assurances that what I felt was normal. I studied the stages of grief and signs from Spirit while working to integrate that with my own religious and spiritual beliefs. I have written the book that I wish I would have had. This book is not a dictionary of signs from Spirit or solely a religious perspective on death. I did not dive extensively into every area of grief, theory, feelings, signs, or how different personality types handle each of these things differently. Instead, it is an honest, easy-to-read collection of stories with lessons from my experiences, intermixed with signs, faith, and hope. Hold close the stories that speak to you in this book and leave the others. Most importantly, if there are people around you who want to rush your grief or do not get your connection to your loved one, that's okay. We get you. You are not alone. Repositioning is a technique I learned to handle grief better. To reposition, we step out of our own story and we look at things from another perspective. This book will be an opportunity to practice this technique. Changing perspectives helps unlock our stuckness and activates parts of our brains to allow ideas, solutions, and possibilities to flow easier. This helps us handle our grief in new ways. When we read of others' experiences, it can also help us know that we are not alone. When we can normalize certain parts of the grieving process, it helps us avoid using tremendous amounts of emotional energy, wondering if what we are going through is normal. This is helpful when we need that energy for putting our lives back together. Each of us come with a slightly different religious, spiritual, cultural, and internal comfort zone for both the topic of death and signs from heaven. From a Christian perspective, you may be wondering if it's okay to talk about signs or communicate with a deceased loved one. If you do not feel comfortable directly talking to your deceased loved one, simply pray to Jesus and God to relay messages to your deceased loved one. With that said, I am not here to debate the endless layers of what's allowed in each religion. I am here to share my story in good faith. In many areas of this book, I refer to the options of prayer, meditation, or looking inward. Simply choose what resonates with you. I honor you and your unique path that you are on. I am sending you wishes of strength, clarity, and open-mindedness as you continue in this book. Thank you for sharing this space with me. What to expect? This book is not laid out in chronological order. Grief is ongoing. We all experience it differently, and there is no end. The chapters match that approach. I am generally an optimistic person, harvesting every life situation for the lessons while turning pain and heartache into learning and helping others. I have journaled, blogged, painted, cried, sung, talked, and prayed over the 11 years of my grief journey. and I highly recommend each of those approaches. I have had a subconscious nudging for years to write this book. I've always considered myself an artist or even a poet, but never an author until now. Eventually, though, I paid attention to the signs, dreams, conversations, and the internal knowing, and I surrendered. I vowed to overcome my fear of what an author is supposed to be. Instead, I chose to show up, write, research, and gather past writings. Mostly, I continue to listen to those around me grieving and their experiences. I have given myself permission to write this book as the artistic poet I am, perfectly imperfect. How our brains process grief and healing. All my life, I have been obsessed with learning and what it means to be aware of our thoughts and emotions. It started when my dad gave me audio tapes of Anthony Robbins that I listened to every night during high school. More recently, I discovered Your Brain at Work by David Rock. This book, especially Act 2, shares how we can use various techniques to manage our emotions, including grief. While it is important to feel our emotions, especially in the first weeks and months after a death, there are often times where we need tools to hold our emotions together. One fascinating takeaway from Rock's book was when he explained studies on emotional regulations. When we give the emotion we are feeling a one-word label, such as denial, sadness, or anger, it helps our brain to de-stimulate our distress levels. We often incorrectly assume that if we acknowledge a strong emotion by labeling it, such as sadness, then it will take over our emotions. However, studies by psychologist James Gross and others show the opposite is true. When we step out of only feeling our emotions and become like a fly on the wall observing the emotions and our reactions to them, we can reinterpret how we see that emotion and name it. We can then create better long-term success in processing our grief. In addition, Rock explains how further studies show if we suppress our negative emotions, like grief, while it may appear on the outside that we are successfully managing everything, inside your brain, the reaction is often an increased release of cortisol, stress, and even elevated blood pressure. Long-term suppression of your negative emotions can lead to depression, decreased self-esteem, as well as decrease in positive emotions. Wow, neuroscience is fascinating. So why does this matter when we're grieving? When our limbic system is overly stimulated, it impairs our ability to do other tasks as easily. Could this explain why grief makes it so hard to carry on with regular life activities at times? This gives me hope of why therapy and other solutions can be effective for those with prolonged and paralyzing grief, as well as those looking to effectively manage grief before it reaches those levels. So just to recap that, don't be afraid that if you're feeling all the feelings, that if you say it, that somehow that's going to negatively lock that in. That acknowledgement, you acknowledging what you're feeling, is saying that it actually allows your body to step out of that emotion, navigate, label it, and start to process it. If you, and we all know people like this, are going to, everything's fine, I'm just getting through, I'm okay. Could be all kinds of reasons. My mom was already 100. I knew it was going to happen. They were sick for a long time. Reasons we tell ourselves why we shouldn't be feeling maybe as strongly. If you have strong feelings, allow yourself to feel them. And sometimes that's just not always purely sadness and despair. It's anger. Maybe you're angry at them, the way that they handled something. Maybe there's a lot of resentment through the years. Maybe there's just a lot of feelings that you need to work through. And at least privately, allow yourself to name those and feel them and start to process them so they're not locked in you. Because what it's saying then is if you don't label those and you don't allow yourself to express them, by dimming those feelings, you're also dimming the joyful feelings. It's like putting a blanket over all of them, and eventually the good feelings don't feel either. And that is not what the goal is, of course. All right, back to the book. I believe in us. I believe that the world is a better place when we share our gifts, experiences, life lessons, and even our heartaches. We all are learning from one another, and I'm grateful for the women and men who have stepped into their power and trusted that inner whisper of knowing. Some plowed through their fears, others may have simply tiptoed. By them overcoming fear or doubts and going for their goals, they have inspired me to continue uncovering and accomplishing for my own goals. My hope is that I can continue that theme and inspire others. I am figuratively and emotionally standing between the calm and the chaos, bravely finding the path forward that connects truth, trust, connection, and dreams. I invite you to join me. What is your story, your growth areas? What are the areas that have pushed you the furthest, tested you, and forced you to plant yourself deep into the ground, refusing to give up? I want to hear about those areas and learn from you and be inspired by your perseverance. During this time of mourning, you may not feel inspired. Read my message above and log it away for when you are ready. During this time of mourning, you may not feel inspired. You may not feel powerful or wise. You may feel shattered and barely hanging on. Read my message above and log it away from when you are ready. There will be a day where you feel the fire swell up inside of you, and you know you are ready to embrace that inner fire. You will learn to hold your grief in a sacred place in your heart, and you will simultaneously rise up and see your strength. You are unique and irreplaceable, and the world is a better place because you are in it. Chapter 1. What are sacred hellos? Sacred hellos is the term I created to describe signs we get from spirit. They can also be called God signs, signs from angels, messages from heaven, God winks. One of those will most likely resonate best based on your religion or spiritual beliefs or other reasons. Some common signs: repeating numbers, 1111, 444, 222, or something personal like a birth date, an anniversary, or a year. Others are feathers, dragonflies, butterflies, cardinals, blue jays, robins, eagles, or other birds. Coins, dreams, maybe a certain song keeps playing for you. Conversations where a message clearly reveals itself. Bees, rainbows, hearts, lights and orbs, or electrical signs such as a grandfather's clock chiming, an alarm clock, or phone call from a deceased number. License plates, maybe the word or the numbers show up just when you're needing it, and they mean something personal to you. Smells. You may smell a loved one's cologne or perfume, cigar smoke, flowers. You can do an internet search, ask a medium or a psychic, pray about them, or trust your knowing if you get one or more of these signs. It is important to know that signs you get may not be on the list. Each time I have received a sacred hello, I have felt a knowing throughout my whole body. The feeling is light, pure, and has a high vibration. There is never sadness or low energy around it. Like, have you ever walked into a room where people were just arguing? You didn't hear the argument, but there's a heaviness in the air. That's that low energy I'm talking about. There are other times where I found a coin and I had no sign feeling attached to it. Other time that perfectly placed coin has taken my breath away in awe. It can be fun to research what a sign means after doing this and take a moment to feel what your body's reaction and confirmation or dismissal or resonance. Just tune in. Does that sign mean something to me? Start to notice and understand the signs. So here's tips to do that. Slow down. When racing through life, juggling multiple tasks at a time, it can be difficult to notice the signs. Approach life with a sense of awe and curiosity. Aim to have days with less planned. Instead, allow time to notice and be open to magical blessings. This is a healthy approach to life beyond the desire to notice signs. While grieving, we can often avoid our feelings by keeping our minds busy. So slowing down helps in multiple ways. This can be as simple as a few minutes of silence while eating breakfast, taking a walk, or while falling asleep. Feel. Sit in the silence and practice awareness. Focus on how your body feels. A certain item in the room, or you can focus on even imagining yourself being surrounded by a soft, healing color. Do not try to control how these things feel. Just observe. Simply becoming aware of what you're feeling without judgment. This practice can refine your noticing and observing skills, helping you improve awareness in how conversations, events, and your reaction to things feel. Ask for signs from your loved ones or pray for signs, then surrender. Do not force signs. For example, if you are desperate for a sign and then you head to the bird exhibit at the zoo, then surprise, you find a feather. Who cares, right? When you open your door and a feather is perfectly centered there on your seat, that brings tingles and knowing. Avoid the need to convince yourself or manipulate the settings or outcomes. When I open my phone and it says 11:11, only I know if I was checking over and over to try to get to that 11:11 place, or if I hadn't checked my phone in hours and then opened it to see that magical number. Do not sign hunt to impress others or to prove that you're in with God or Jesus or the spirit world. Be open-minded. If your best friend consistently has a cardinal visitor and she feels a connection to that, do not blind yourself by only focusing on if cardinals are visiting you as well. Go back to curiosity, then noticing your signs will be perfectly for you. Set boundaries. When my son was a baby, I often found myself talking to my mom and asking her for signs that she was around. So my son was born about 18 months after my mom passed away. I was completely comfortable getting a sign from her until it was 2 a.m. in the morning and I would be walking down a dark hallway to my crying baby's room or sitting in that room to feed him. And more than once I found myself saying, like, just don't give me a sign now, Mom. Not in the dark. It'd freak me out. And my mom always respected that. I think that's part of the reason that she's come through to me so many times in dreams. It's the safe way that I can embrace the interaction without resistance or human fears. We do not get to pick our signs. Each year on my mom's birthday, I try to do something special. One year, my sisters and I met up at our hometown and had breakfast at our favorite bagel shop. We got prime seating on one of the few comfy couches with chairs, and it had a coffee table in the middle. I brought with a deck of angel cards. They're kind of like tarot cards, but a more positive, angelic focus. The deck was all about messages from our loved ones in heaven that they would like us to know. So I let each sister hold the deck near her heart and then shuffle. They spread the cards out and let the energy guide them towards what card to pick. The theory is then that your energy guides you and you get drawn towards the card that your loved one is guiding you to. My youngest sister, Alicia, was slightly skeptical, but she played along, and the card she drew did not feel like a fit to her. She thought. We could see the frustration and disappointment on her face. Then my other sister went, and then me. Then Alicia decided she wanted to ask my mom to guide her to a card and let her pick again. So she repeated the process of shuffling, energetically going over it all, and she drew the same card. She could not believe it. She decided to go one more time. She shuffled all the cards, held them to her heart. The theory behind that is your body energetically is feeling the energy of those messages on the cards. Just give the whole process an energetic kind of reality to it. So anyways, the third time, she picked the same card. The message was clear. It was up to her to be open or not to that message's intention. Light and love. I pray for protection, for love, and only loving and light-filled spirits around me. I have no interest in attracting anything negative towards me. So I play it safe. For me personally, I am in constant communication with God, my mom, my spirit guides, and angels. In addition to asking for protection, I ask them for clarity to help make the signs clear to me and to guide me to how best I can use them and use what I know to help others in my life and their life. I'll just add, now 17 years out, this is much of a less focus for me at this point, but for years this helped me incredibly. You are a conduit. The same way I get frustrated when churches make people believe that the church is the sole gateway between a person and God, I also think it's easy for us to think that only mediums can connect with our loved ones that are deceased. While a medium can be an amazing tool to get clear messages, as can church, you must also honor your own internal knowing and connection to spirit or God. I know many others that have no interest in working with a medium, and their comfort level is in prayer. And I honor that. If that's you, then find the scriptures that can support you and your grief and in the heavens. All right, last page. Signs can be a helpful tool and a way to feel a connection. However, it is important to not put more value on signs, communicating with our loved ones on the other side, and knowing more and more until we lose connection with the lives we are living here. Getting a reading from a medium can be an amazing experience. However, if you become too dependent on those messages, instead of learning to feel inward and trust your own knowing, then you may be doing a disservice to yourself. I often think of myself as an in-betweener, one foot in like the religious Christian world, one foot in the woo-woo spiritual world. I've found that to be in many areas of my life. I'm kind of the in-between of different groups. I believe there are lessons from other religions and non-religious groups that we can learn from as well. Each group often uses terms for similar things. When we bring our walls down and listen to the intention of each other's words, we often realize we're more similar than we realize. I am fascinated by how different religions and cultures, both here in the U.S. and around the world, handle death, including views around burials, ceremonies, rituals, how we dress the dead for burial. Our attitudes toward death is varying as well. It is often the dreaded end here in America, and people have a hard time talking about it. There are other cultures who are much more open about the circle of life and our mortality. It's my dream to travel the world and study these differences. When we factor in cremation versus burial, somber memorial versus celebration of life, and our relationship with the deceased, we must acknowledge the variety of paths through grief that we each experience. There is no single way to handle grief. A funeral, death, rebuilding after a death of a loved one, no single way. Give yourself grace. Give those around you grace. It can be so easy to judge those who grieve differently than we do. However, withholding our judgments can preserve our energy and often our relationships as well. So that was the introduction and chapter 1 of Sacred Hellos, Messages from Heaven. This book is available on Amazon in both paperback form and in Kindle. I am going to continue reading a chapter from this each Sunday, so I hope you'll tune in. I'll put the link to the book in the description. If you know anyone who is, I would say, a year out from grieving or deep loss, this book can be helpful. Immediately after loss, it can feel too soon often for people. They're still in the tunnel. This is too much to even. I remember going out of town a few weeks after my mom passed. I took my daughter to a water park in Wisconsin Dells, and we met someone who was also there with someone, and her mom had passed 7 years, I think it was, prior. And I couldn't even fathom at that moment what that could be like. How would you even survive on this earth 7 more years without my mom? Like, that thought was so overwhelming to me. And so I think this book could be like that if you're immediate in the weeks or months after losing someone. But beyond that, it can be a really helpful tool. And then secondly, I have put together a practical pivot guide. If any of you are looking to make this pivot in life, I have a free guide that can help you lay out how to go from where you are and take inventory of that and put together a plan and some encouragement to figure out where you want to go with that in your life and how to take those steps. So I'll put that in the description of this video as well. I'm hoping that what I share here can help you, but if anything just feels like it doesn't fit for you, then that's okay. Just let it go. Just take the parts that can feel good to you and helpful. Lastly, I will say that it's really interesting in the years since rereading this book. Certain parts of that I don't even know if I would put in the book now, being 17 years out, versus when I started this, it was under 10 years out. And many of these were blog posts or different journal entries that I'd had in the years following. So just know that something that doesn't resonate with you might resonate with you really strongly in a couple years as we continue to go through life and different things and chapters present themselves. So, all right, thanks for being here.